The Secretary of Commerce, the Mayor of New York, and the Director of the United States Census were all together in Times Square today to kick off a big nationwide ad campaign. This ad campaign includes a 13-vehicle bus tour traveling more than 150,000 miles, stopping at the Super Bowl in Miami, Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and even, I guess, bus boating it somehow to Puerto Rico. The goal is to persuade Americans to fill out the census form, the form that should arrive in a mailbox near you in mid-March. The government's planning on spending over $300 million this year to persuade us all to spend 10 minutes answering that questionnaire and sending it back. The patriotic case for participating in the census is being made slightly more difficult this year by conservative fringy McFringersons among us deciding that this year, even though it happens every 10 years, this year the census must be some sort of commubominist plot. For help unraveling this, we turn to Kent Jones and TMI. A special report. Ooh, Kent, so tell me, how is it that once in a decade, fill out the census campaign happens every decade. This year they have to cope with conspiracy theories about the census, too.
That's right. Two magic words, Michelle Bachmann.
Oh, yes.
Have a look.
The Congresswoman from the 6th District of Minnesota is drawing a line about the 2010 census.
I'm not encouraging Americans not to fill out the census. I'm saying for myself and for my family, our comfort level is we will comply with the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. We will give the number of the people in our home, and that's where we're going to draw the line.
Don't tread on me with your counting the people in my household.
How do we know that our information that's given to the government, personal information, will stay private? What guarantees do the American people have that hackers won't get into this system?
You know what TMI means? Too much information. And that goes for your snoopy neighbors, too.
They'll go to our neighbors on our left and on our right and ask our neighbors to give them information about our personal lives. This is very concerning.
Actually, this is the census, which happens every 10 years, at least until Michelle Bachmann can stop it.
We look at American history between 1942 and 1947. The data that was collected by the Census Bureau was handed over to the FBI and other organizations at the request of President Roosevelt, and that's how the Japanese were rounded up and put into the internment camps. I'm not saying that that's what the administration is planning to do, but I am saying that private personal information that was given to the Census Bureau in the 1940s was used against Americans to round them up.
Whew! So what kind of deranged extremist would want to do that to its own people? Who came up with this flagrant insult to the Constitution? The guys who wrote the Constitution. Back in 1787, the United States became the first nation to make a census mandatory in its Constitution. Quote, "The actual enumeration of the population shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress and within every subsequent term of 10 years. It's data from that 10-year census that's used to redraw congressional maps." Congressional maps, like in Minnesota, which is facing the possible loss of a congressional seat after the next census. Maybe that's why we haven't heard Bachmann railing about hackers or snoopy neighbors or internment camps since at least last August. Because if Michelle Bachmann doesn't fill out the census and her constituents don't fill out their census, then what happens to her district? I think she's figuring it out.
The census is the motherlode of all data collection in the United States.
Moral? Be nice to your motherlode.
Thank you very much, Kent. Appreciate that.